Thanks so much for being here, Cindy.
Thank you for having me.
First off, you're a fierce advocate for women, particularly when it comes to their health. Where does that passion come from?
Ooh, that passion really comes from having lived a double standard in medicine between men and women. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. The first company I built had one of the products for male sexual health. Actually, at that time, when I looked around, there were 26 FDA-approved products for some form of male sexual satisfaction and 0 for women, despite the fact that more women than men struggled from the issue. So dial back many years now, 13 years now, and I'm standing at one of the medical conferences, and they're showing brain scan imagery of women who struggle with this condition. It's called hypoactive sexual desire disorder, or low sex drive. They're showing brain scan imagery of women, how they respond to sexual cues versus women who aren't struggling with it. And it's like lightning struck me. Oh, it's biology. And the standard of care up to that point had been to tell women it was all in their head. So here I was running this successful company in men for which there were a plethora of options. So can you imagine, I dared to sell that off and take this on for women. You would imagine that the path would look similar, right? But the unbelievable difference, the unbelievable double standard in doing that is why I'm so passionate about this in the first place. Media called us female Viagra. So much more interesting. We work on the biggest sex organ right here, the brain, not blood flow. But when you look at those very first headlines, they were female Viagra. Isn't that jewelry?
Oh, wow.
Just sit with that for a second. No, it was spectacular science.
Well, you made history with Addyi, the first FDA-approved treatment option for frustratingly low libido, which is one of women's most common sexual problems. But this was not an easy road, as I've heard. Can you speak a little bit about the challenges that you faced?
Let me give you the Cliff Notes version. So when Viagra was approved in 1998, it was deemed to meet such an important unmet medical need, a national emergency for erections, that it received rare fast-track status and was reviewed and approved by the FDA within 6 months. Addyi, which treats women's most common sexual dysfunction, took 6 years, a very public debate, and by the way, we had 3 times as many patients worth of data in our clinical trials. Now, you tell me whether we value men's sexual pleasure more or women's.
And you've said that a majority of the roadblocks in getting Addyi approved came down to the fact that we as a society value satisfaction for men, but dismiss it for women, sexual satisfaction for men, but we dismiss it for women. I mean, you've been involved in this for over 15 years. Do you think our culture has improved in terms of how we value women's pleasure?
I'll give you a twofold answer. The medical community has not changed at all. We don't see this as a standard of care in women's wellness. Women are not proactively asked this question. But what has changed is that women are no longer tolerating being dismissed. Women want to live full, healthy lives on their own terms, and so I think the days are ending in which we can pat a woman on the shoulder, tell her to have a bubble bath, or just relax. And that has been, make no mistake, that has been a standard of care for a really long time. We have accepted that we can just dismiss it as all in her head. Look, as you mentioned, I've been at this for a very long time. It's almost 10 years ago that we got this product approved. Time magazine put the blue pill on the cover of its magazine when it was approved. Less than 1% of women know that they have an option of a pink pill today. And even this year, an insurance company denied a claim for a woman with Addyi, asking if she had failed relationship counseling first. The medical establishment has not changed, but women are sick of it.
So, over the years, you've talked to thousands of women who have been diagnosed with HSDD, the diagnosis that Addyi treats. What are some of the ways that treatment has been, receiving proper treatment for this diagnosis has impacted their lives?
I really have had a privilege of talking to so many women who have shared really very personal secrets of things that they've struggled with behind the closed doors of their bedroom. By the way, 43% of women suffer from sexual dysfunction compared to only 31% of men. So more women than men actually struggle with these issues. And the way that almost every woman I've had the privilege of talking to has described it to me is they feel disconnected. They feel disconnected from themselves, and they often feel disconnected from the person that they want to be the most connected to. So to address this is to restore something that is gone for them. It's gone for them biologically. It's neurochemistry, right? We make it so mysterious. Like, we understand scientifically that for millions of women, this can just be a neurochemical issue. I'm struck by stories that I am told. I had an opportunity to speak, and a woman came beelining for me as soon as I got off the stage, and she said, "Can I take a picture with you and show it to my husband?" And I was intrigued immediately at the story. She said, "I was sitting outside of the divorce lawyer's office in my car, and I heard you on a podcast." And she said, "I'd asked 1,000 times in the medical system for help with this. I had never been told that this could be a biological. I had never been told that there were solutions for it." And, for her, look, these issues can snowball, right, in relationships when things like this go wrong. By no means am I saying that her success will be everyone's success, but that is why I continue to fight.
Recently on your social media channels, you've been highlighting the ways in women continue to suffer physically and emotionally due to systemic bias in medicine, and whether that is having to wait for a longer time for treatment for heart attack
Yes.
in the ER, or being told that they're being hysterical or emotional when living with chronic pain, when men, on the other hand, are seen as brave or stoic. What do we have to do as a society in order to get past this?
Oof. I'll tell you, I post about this all the time. Just last week, I posted about the stat that if a woman presents with heart attack symptoms, she waits 11 minutes longer than a man, in really a crisis situation in medicine in which minutes matter. I got thousands of responses, women who talked about showing up, having a stroke, and being sent home, women with acute appendicitis who were told they were having a panic attack. This is a real crisis in medicine. The idea that we believe that women are built only on emotion and not biology. I don't know that it's that we think men are stoic. I think we just think they're credible. So let me give you the Cindy 3Ds of medical disparity, because I do believe it's imperative that we be hyper-vigilant about this. The first D I want you to watch out for is dismissal. That pat on the shoulder, that knee-jerk reaction that is institutionalized in medicine, be it conscious or not conscious. We are programmed to believe you're just freaking out, ladies. And so when that shows up and you're not being taken seriously on the basis of your symptoms medically, you have to push back. By the way, one of the ways dismissal masquerades is when somebody describes something as complicated. Yes, many things in medicine are complicated. That is not an excuse to not solve it. That's one. The second is demonization. And actually, media has a big role in this. Unfortunately, those products for women in which we have the most evidence, we lead with risk. We fearmonger. We focus disproportionately on that because we don't bother spending any time talking about the benefit to the woman or letting her know that it's her option to make that decision based on the risks and benefits. That's infantilizing women. That's deciding for them whether or not they deserve it. And it's a massive disservice to women that we do that. And then the final is the dupe. And this is really unfortunate. Because of number one and number two, because of that dismissal, because of that demonization of those things in which we have evidence in our decision that suffering is okay and acceptable for women, so why bother giving them options for anything? Now we've got the dupe, which is a wasteland of innovation in women's health. If you look at it, women's health is littered with pseudo-medicine, products that have not been either studied to prove their safety or efficacy in women, and that is at best robbing you of your money and at worst actually dangerous. because even those things that you can get over the counter are not benign. And I think that's really what I hate to see in women's health, because so long as we go along with that, so long as we accept and don't hold companies to the standard, the highest standard of science, in which they have to prove safety and efficacy in clinical trials in us, the opportunists will continue to sell snake oil, and no one will go and invest in women's health, and that would be devastating.
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We could go on, but we're out of time. So thank you again to being here, and also for being our sponsor, Addyi. So stay right here for our next guest of the program. Thanks again, Cindy.
Conversation. Thank you. Appreciate it.